Dylan, ready for the first workshop?
Workshop, item A, workshop on how to become a mentor for English language learners. Please step up to the podium.
Hi, Larry.
Turn that off, Larry.
That was
Just
awesome.
take the podium.
Good afternoon, City
Good
Commissioner.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ms. Martinez. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here to present before you. Before me, I have Nori Granado, one of our specialists here in the bilingual department, and I have Edward Ramos, our other specialist here in our department, and my name is Alma Rubio. I am the bilingual director here for Brownsville Independent School District, and I am here to tap at your doors and ask you to nurture and support our mentorship program. We have what's called the Diversity ELO Mentorship Program here in Brownsville ISD, and I just want to explain to you what is the program about and how do you become a mentor. Basically, one of the first steps to become a mentor is to definitely post. Before you, you have a poster that looks something like this. The first step of your support is to allow BISD to place one of these mentorship flyers in each of your departments. And this is just a reminder of how do you become a mentor. And this is our first step of support. The second thing, our goal is to have a former ESL student that came from another country who went through the public school system and who is now working in the city of Brownsville in any of the departments. As you know, every day we have a lot of students that are migrating from other countries. They're becoming very successful. They're leading your departments, they're leading your commissioner departments, and there's so many great things that are happening with former bilingual students, former ESL students that are in your departments. And we'd like to have at least one mentor at every campus with a BISD. We have over 15,000 ELO students coming from different countries, all the way from Persia to Nepal, all the way from Russia, Vietnam. We have kids all over the world, and of course, and our neighbors from Mexico. What would be to become a mentor? There are several things that you can partake if you become an ELO mentor. One is that you would take a 2-minute video at your work site. What exactly do you do? What exactly made you successful? What are the things that you would advise our bilingual students or ESL students that are sitting in our classrooms and saying, can I really make it in this community? So we would come in and videotape you. We would then showcase that videotape into the classrooms. To actually go to the campuses and do a presentation. Every year we pull out our ESL students that are about to graduate. We have partners with the University of Texas at Brownsville. There is now, or University of Texas RGV. We now have a program called the Global Engagement Department that regardless of your immigration status, you can still go to college, you can still get financial aid, but they need to hear it from former ESL students that are now working in the city. Sometimes we need translators, a simple person to say, hey, you know what, I can speak French, I can speak German, I can speak Vietnam. Sometimes you'd be amazed at just a simple phone call, how do you say this in Spanish, that you'd be willing to say, I'll be a translator for you. A lot of times we get a lot of parents that say, well, where can I go in the city? I need help X, Y, and Z. That you'd say, hey, I'd be that translator for you. Another one would be that we actually take field trips to your work site. You've already allowed this for the whole city. A lot of educational components come to your city, but this would be directly to the work sites where former ESL students that are working in the bilingual department, that are working in the city of Brownsville, this is the sites that we would go to. And definitely say, I am part of this. We have one meeting a year, and the first meeting would be an annual luncheon, but we collaborate ideas. You as a city employee, you would come back to the table and say, you know what, our kids need to know how to read and write more proficiently in English and Spanish. You would give suggestions as to what do we need to do to continue motivating that student that has such a richness in their primary language. We are a very rich city. We have a lot of students that speak very well Spanish and can also now learn to speak very good English. However, because we speak so much Spanish, we don't realize how rich we are. And we don't realize that these kids that are coming from other countries really have so much to offer, but they need to hear it from people that have been successful. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for mentors that are in the city, that are out there working away and doing just great things. You'll have one luncheon, and this luncheon You will introduce yourself. You will have your their school that you're mentoring. You would only have to mentor one of the schools. And so basically, offer yourself as a member and say, you know what, have you considered doing this with the ESL students? Have you considered making sure they go to these workshops? Right now, your ambassador program is so successful, and we are looking to see the ELO mentorship be as successful as that program. There is a form that you would sign a commitment saying that if I will participate as being an ELO mentorship, you sign it off. You can check off the ones that you say, you know, I'm willing to be a presenter, I'm willing to have someone come to my work site, and you will then agree to it, and then we'll have you in a distribution list. So every time we have a success student, especially we have a lot of students that are valedictorians, we have a lot of students that finish the program within 2-3 years. We have students that are going in the ranks from regular classroom settings to pre-AP, AP. We want that mentor to say, great job. Keep going. We can't wait to see you working in the city. We can't see you doing something in the community. So we need that one person to say, I was there, I did that, I know that's gonna happen for you. So I'm here as the bilingual department in representing Dr. Montoya and Mrs. Berta Peña and trying to push this mentorship program. We have such great ELO students working in the city of Brownsville. We wanna highlight them. We wanna show all the kids that regardless of what country you come from, you're gonna be very successful. So basically, this is our program. Any questions?
My mother was an ESL teacher for many, many years, and to this day, I mean, we can be at the island or anywhere, and people come up and say, you know, you taught me English, and I'm so grateful, and I'm a professor now, and it's mind-boggling. So keep up the great work, and we definitely support you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for
Ms.
allowing.
Rubio, thank you for taking your time and coming and giving us a presentation. And I know that we do have the flyers, and they are going up in our offices. And there are. I've already spoken to 2 people that are going to mentor here from the city of Brownsville. So they are former ESL students from the district. So they are already committed, and they'll be in contact with the office.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, and Estella, I think it would be good if you could send an email trying to see if we can get a register of all the of those people that are within our city limits, within our city offices, and maybe we can exchange, or maybe you guys could help us find all those students as well.
Definitely.
And definitely have a inventory of great people to go be mentors, okay?
Thank you very much for this
Thank you.
opportunity. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Congratulations. Well, thank you. 2 minutes.
2 minutes, right?
Yeah. Do you want me to read the call?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Notice of a public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code and the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a workshop, an executive session, and a regular meeting on Tuesday, October 21st, 2014, at 5:15 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. and at 6 p.m. in the Commission Chambers on the 2nd floor of Brownsville City Hall, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Executive session, item A, discussion pursuant to section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code regarding economic development.
Mayor, move we go into executive session.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Yes, sir. Oh, okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I
pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you in the name of Jesus. And Lord God, we ask that you will bless the city of Brownsville, that you will bless our citizens, that you will bless our leaders, the mayor, the commissioners, and all the leaders in the city of Brownsville. Mighty God, we are so thankful and grateful for the great decisions that they're making. And Lord God, thank you for bringing the SpaceX to the Boca Chica, city of Brownsville. We are so pleased and so thankful, Lord God. This will help our city, our economy. And mighty God, I pray that you will continue giving them wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Mighty God, I pray for the elections that we're about to have or having right now. We ask that you bless, Lord God, the citizens of the city of Brownsville, that each and every one will go out and vote and pick the right leader, make the right choice. Mighty God, we ask that you will enable them with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to make the right choice. And Lord God, we love you, we praise you, and we give you thanks. I also, Lord God, pray for the servicemen that we have overseas, around the world. Mighty God, I pray for each and every one of them. And Lord God, we give you all the honor and all the glory. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Mayor's activity report.
I want to, last meeting, we talked about Pace High School doing community service. And I was out there Friday morning for their pep rally. And the enthusiasm and the dedication and involvement of not only the administration, but the bus drivers, everyone involved. It was a real pleasure to be out there. And I would like to invite and challenge the other high schools in Brownsville to follow in their example. They had a great time doing things for others, brings a real joy to your heart. And I think these kids all had a great time, and I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful example of how they lead by example. So my hat's off to Pace High School. I will somehow or another store that big event T-shirt that they gave me in the office of the mayor that is non-existent. And also I asked them to bring me a cap so I could put it somewhere prominently to show them how proud I am of them. So that's my mayor's report. Any commissioners have one?
I'm sorry, do you want to go? Go ahead. Sorry, I just have one real quick announcement. The Brownsville Historical Association has asked me to mention hold on, let me unlock my phone. I don't want to get this wrong. Okay. The Civil War Symposium is on November the 1st at the Dancy Building. It starts at 9 a.m. and they will be having breakfast tacos and all sorts of goodies. So that's November the 1st at 9 a.m. at the Dancy Building. Thank you.
Mayor, I just wanted to take this opportunity once again to invite the community that have an interest in the Lincoln Park relocation. We are going to meet next Thursday, October the 30th, at Tony Gonzalez Gym at 6 o'clock. So please, if you do have an opinion, if you are interested in the changes that are to come, please come join us at Tony Gonzalez Gym next Thursday, October 30th, at 6 p.m. And if you don't mind, quiero invitar a la gente que nos está viendo en la tele, si nos acompañan el próximo jueves a las 6 de la noche en el gimnasio del Parque Tony González, donde vamos a estar discutiendo y tomando la opinión de la gente sobre los cambios que vienen para Lincoln Park y para que puedan expresar su opinión en el tema. Thank you.
Thank you. Proclamations. I don't, unfortunately, Commissioner Gowan's mom took ill, so she's not here, and I don't see Commissioner Portillo. Can someone else take the lead
Yes, whoever wants to,
and read?
if someone wants to read the proclamation, or I can read it, whichever you prefer.
The representative.
Joan?
Culture of health. It's this one here. I don't know who's here. The people from Vive tu Vida and Culture of Health Day, please come up.
Are you going to read it?
Okay, thanks.
Great.
If y'all will stand over there facing the camera. Go ahead and start reading and then
Hot
we'll
off
do
the
the photo
press.
op.
Okay. There, your proclamation's on the way, but I'm going to go ahead and start reading what it says on it. A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, proclaiming October 25th, 2014 as Vive tu Vida and Culture of Health Day. Whereas the City of Brownsville is one of 6 winners nationwide of prestigious RWJF Culture of Health Prize from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, recognition of outstanding efforts to help people lead healthier lives. And whereas the prize honors communities that area, harnessing the collective power of leaders, partners, and stakeholders to help residents choose healthier lifestyles. And whereas the Brownsville Community Health Center, or BCHC, shares the city's commitment to a healthier commitment. And whereas BCHC was selected by the National Alliance for Hispanic Health to host Vive tu Vida, Get Up, Get Moving, an event to promote healthy lifestyle behaviors for all families. And whereas BCHC's goal is to create an impact within the Brownsville community on 3 levels: individual, family, and community. And whereas almost 5,000 individuals participate in Vive tu Vida. And whereas RWJF, Culture of Health, and BCHC have partnered for the Vive tu Vida event to provide information, physical activity demonstrations, speakers, and other fun activities. Now therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of authority vested by the Charter of said city, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 25th, 2014, to be Vive tu Vida and Culture of Health Day, done on the 21st day of October 2014, signed Antonio Martinez, Mayor, and the City Commission.
Well, Christella was supposed to be here and receive this, but she was detained. So she asked us to come in. I am the facilitator for AmeriCorps, and we have coordinated this event for 4 years now. My members all do community service throughout the whole year. for 1,700 hours that they have to complete. So we're out there too, Mayor.
Thank you to AmeriCorps.
And so our
thank you.
event has just grown bigger and bigger every year, so we hope everybody comes out and enjoys it.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's our schedule to You want to speak?
Okay, Mayor, on the nurse practitioner, we're going to wait for November 4th on that one.
Okay.
Would you like for me to read item 15?
If the commission has no objection, go
I
ahead.
move item 18 up, 15 up.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 15, consideration and action to adopt resolution number 2014-063 to approve a plan of finance to issue general obligation bonds to refund certain outstanding obligations of the city and authorizing the city staff and professional advisors to prepare and distribute all documents and take all actions deemed necessary in connection with preparing for the issuance of such bonds, including the selection of underwriters.
Mayor, thank you. Good to see you tonight. Members of the commission. Noe Hinojosa with the Strike Hinojosa and Company. Serve the city as financial advisor. And what we're giving you right there in front of you is a little booklet that, if I take you over to page 3, kind of gives you a little history of the city's debt. And basically, as we speak to you, today the city's debt is about $151.2 million, supported by property taxes. The tax values of the city at about $5.8 billion. So for all practical purposes, the city of Brownsville's debt is very manageable. It's got great ratings of a AA3 by Moody's, AA- by S&P, AA- by Fitch. What we're bringing to you tonight is the opportunity to exchange basically interest rates on current bonds that are outstanding at about 4.8% to about 2.29%. And that exchange of interest rates saves the city about $2.9 million. I'm going to walk you through as to how we're going to achieve that. Basically, on page 3, you'll see some various quadrants and how rapidly you're paying off your debt. On the bottom-hand quadrant, you'll see some bars of greens and blues and an orange line and a red line that goes through it. And what that shows basically the taxpayer and the rating agencies is that you're literally paying off all your debt in 10 years, about 80% ratio. And that's pretty phenomenal for a city of this size. Normally, a city, when paying their debt off, it should be at about 55 to 60%, 10 years out. You're well in excess of that. And because of that, because of your rapid payout, it causes your payments to be higher than usual. Well, in working with your staff, and I think at the direction of the commission too, there's been an interest of maybe putting together some a list of capital improvements out there, and that as you go about modeling that or developing that capital improvements, that we will then mirror that capital improvement plan with a debt plan, so that as you go about funding for those capital improvements, you do have something of some capacity, for that matter, to borrow money and not impact the tax rate as much. So I wanted to point that out because that's pretty much the premise on how we're going to structure this refinancing. As you go over to page 4, you'll see that the graphs that are there, the bars that are there, show an escalating amortization schedule or amortization payment schedule from 2015 to 2023, and then it drops in 2024. And basically what that is your current mortgage payments on all the various 20 different loans that you have, and how that payment impacts your tax rate. So as you go to the next page, I wanted to point out for your benefit on page 5, your sales tax debt. Your sales tax debt is pretty negligible, about $14.5 million. That is paid exclusively by a 1/4% sales tax that is levied by the city for the purpose, I believe, of the sports park or the sportsplex. And you right now levy about $4.25 million, and you paid about $1.6 million of that. And that's on page 6, how basically you got 3 little loans there, and your mortgage payments are from 2015 through 2027. In 2024, it drops. Today, the market, you probably have heard how well it is to borrow money. maybe it's not as good when you invest money in equities, but in the fixed income side, interest rates are very favorable. Just in the last year, rates about this time last year were about 4.19% on a 30-year loan. Today, they're at 2.85. So what we're trying to do is get you in front of that. On the next page after that, there's a little spreadsheet that looks like this. On the right-hand corner, says pre-2014. And what that shows, if I just take you quickly to column H, is how the payments of the city in 2014 were $14.5 million. In 15 were 14.6, and as you go forward, you'll see payments as high as 16.8 million. That's without issuing debt. And how that impacts your tax rate, if property values don't grow, you look at column I, and you'll see how the tax rate will have to be raised to about 26 cents, or just shy of that, if you were to do nothing with your existing debt, or for that matter, if property values were not to grow. So what we're doing, when you turn the next page, is we're filling column E. Column E basically is a refinancing. All of the savings are shown in every single cell that was clear in the previous page, and you'll see how there, I'm showing you $2.6 million of savings on a net present value basis. We're going to sell a bond for $25 million, $25.2 million, to refinance about $26,710,000. The rate on the existing bonds is 4.61. The new rates, we think, if everything holds, it will be at about 2.29%. The item that is before you is to give us the authority to proceed, so that hopefully on or about 30 days from now, we can come to you and execute the contract. So nothing is firm unless you so choose to give us the opportunity to go forward. What's more important here is when you go to column H, or for that matter, column I, your tax rate will go from a 24-cent that you have right now dedicated for debt service taxes, drop to 23.5 cents from now to about 2023. So that's what this is doing, that we're going to try to strategically move those savings into the years where you have the most pressure, so that as you go about funding projects in the future, you have the latitude of moving forward. So on page 9 basically shows you the current rates on these bonds. For example, Series 2005, from the second column from left to right, we got rates that you're paying as high as 5%. We will replace those with rates as low as 0.4% and as high as 2.1%. So basically, you're now borrowing out 30 years. You're basically substituting bonds that are going to go out through 2026 with bonds that are at 2026. So we're not extending any of the maturities. We're just replacing interest rates. When you go to page 10, you'll see this graph. There's gray bars in there. The gray bars indicate your current debt portfolio payments. And the blue line shows what your new payments will be if we're able to secure the rates 30 days from now, the ones that I'm illustrating tonight. In order to proceed, I'm on page 12 now. We're presenting to you tonight, October 21st. We're hoping that we secure the ratings in the next 2-3 weeks, so that on or about December the 2nd, we have a firm commitment from an underwriting syndicate, so that we can proceed and get the deal done for you. So I'll stop and I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Would you approve?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Nellie.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, sir. Thank you, members of the commission.
Our next item is item 4, presentations, Brownsville Economic Development Council projects update.
Mayor, good evening, City Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. have a chance to talk about what's going on with economic development in the city of Brownsville. It's a fun time to be doing economic development in Brownsville and in the valley. There's a lot of great things happening, SpaceX, other activities related to SpaceX, and other types of activities coming in, new retail, new manufacturing opportunities. Having the port in our backyard is a tremendous asset. So I'm truly blessed to have this opportunity to work for the BDC at this time and be in Brownsville at this time in its history. We have prepared a presentation for you, so I'm going to let Gilbert give our presentation. He's our resident actor, so he's always good for doing our presentation. So, Gilbert.
Thank you, Jason.
The bodyguard?
Mayor, members of the City Commission, I apologize, it's a little lengthy, so I'm going to go through it as quick as I can. By all means, if there's any questions, feel free to stop me. Okay. Mission of the BDC, it's pretty simple. It's to lead, facilitate, and promote economic development for the Brownsville-Matamoros Borderplex. Build regional economic prosperity, enhance community sustainability, that's the key right there, and create employment opportunities. By utilizing the resources and expertise of the public institutions, the private sector, and all collaborating with the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. That being said, I'm going to go through the actual BDC ecosystem, which is every division within our organization is represented here. And when we work projects, we start with the economic research and end up all the way. It's a 10-step process with closing the deal and eventually doing the groundbreaking ceremony, as we just did last month with SpaceX, then fostering the entry of the business with our BREE program. Okay, so the first section, that's the economic research. A lot of what we'll do is work these company lists, dig up lists of companies, figure out which ones are in growth mode between 18 to 36 months out, the ones that actually have plans of expansion, or for that matter, relocation as well, and they're looking for particular markets, and what do we need to do in order to, one, create that list, dig up all that information, crunch those numbers, and then from those lists, weed them down to a smart list of companies that we're going to conduct outreach. And then at that point in time, we'll conduct the actual outreach to the companies. That's via email, by way of advanced communication. Sometimes it's through social media as well, and then via telephone calls. And then the key there is, once we have identified those companies and we're able to get our foot in the door, then it's set up those face-to-face meetings with the companies that we consider a best bet or a best fit for our particular area. Relationship marketing. This is a little different from actually marketing or a marketing campaign. Once we have the actual data, how are we going to present that and what are we going to do with that? Name branding, especially as of late, we've been able to get Brownsville out on a positive light. Marketing elements, and then place selling. Place selling, basically what that means is how you're promoting your particular region or your city. And then what we'll do when we have an actual public announcement, we grab those news, for the most part, your second day news, insert them into our economic journal, which becomes part of our advanced communication, going back to our economic research, and then our website, and then social media. Then proactive public relations. It's not just public relations, it's actually being proactive about it. So our goal is to create balanced and proactive news, not so much reactive news, not just waiting for media to call, but getting out there, getting interviews, securing interviews with major media outlets to get that proactive, or tell that story that we have in Brownsville, which is a very good story. Advertising, really, that does not fall within our goals and objectives. We simply don't do advertising. Every now and then you'll see it, but for the most part, we concentrate on editorial placement and also the public announcements. Corporate recruitment. This is a meat of what we do. This is the bulk of everything that happens in our office, and that's lead generation. So we identify companies, but how do we come up with those lists? We have 7 sources by way which we identify these companies. One is internal research. That goes back to our economic research. That's in-house, developing those lists, identifying those companies. Consultants, we work with a string of consultants that also help us develop those company lists. The Office of the Governor, They've been extremely helpful. They are extremely proactive when it comes to working projects, and they generate those leads for us as well. Site selectors, we need to be in front of them all the time, top of mind awareness with them. So we have a pretty extensive network with site selectors. Then our Latin America initiative, being out there, over there knocking on doors and meeting with those companies. Walk-ins and inquiries. For instance, today we got an email from the city manager's office that somebody called looking to build something here in Brownsville, and they had some questions. Well, that would be considered an inquiry or a walk-in. So we're working that inquiry right now. Then U.S. Commercial Services, their Select USA program. They've been great, especially on the foreign front as far as FDI is concerned. They've developed a lot of leads and support when you're trying to recruit these companies. And then again, the key here is to get those face-to-face meetings and then secure those site visits where they come in and visit your community, and in turn be able to prepare your pitch for the veto, which is a very important top officer within that organization. So as you can see, there is somewhat of a science to everything that we do. And you can Google this stuff, you're not going to find it. This is actually what we do there at the BEDC. Site selection process, that is outside looking in. These are site selectors, which represent 70% of the projects that are in growth mode in the United States. So they start off with a company, they meet with a company, and they figure a strategy for their expansion project. It's a needs assessment-based service that they provide. They do community filtering, so they could start with 300 MSAs and boil it down to a short list of 20 or 10. So what we're trying to do is, this is where the proactive news and the editorial placement and the relationship marketing comes into place and enhances what the site selector is doing. We want to get into that short list of top 10, top 5, or top 3, where the company in turn is going to come in and visit and tour the city. And in the end, you want to be one of the finalist cities. And in turn, once you're there, then that's you start negotiating a deal as far as whether incentives is going to apply or not. And then again, you make your best pitch for closing this deal. That leads us into our due diligence and incentives phase. So there's we get the call from the site selector. They say, okay, you're one of 3 or 5 communities they're looking at. What can you do as a region to support this project? So we start analyzing the prospective company. We sign an NDA with them. We have to understand what this company is about. We need a letter of intent. Basically, the company saying there is an intent on our part to enter your community or your region. And then we have a third-party financial review. So an external company does a review of the company, and at that point they get rated whether it's a good company to invest in or not. It goes through an internal process, incentives committee. They'll review the actual project, and then they make a recommendation to the BEDC Executive Board. And in turn, they make a recommendation to the BEDC Board of Directors. And at that point in time, then there's a certain figure, certain number that they come up with, whether incentives applies for the project or not. And the recommendation is done to the GBIC Board, and they have the ultimate say-so as far as whether they would fund the project or not, or we need to go back to the drawing board. Okay, so we get to the negotiating, closing the deal. At this point in time, the company has already at least visited the community one time. They continue to do their community data, the filtering through the community. And again, hopefully at this point in time when the company is deciding between 1, 2, or 3 locations, that proactive news, for instance, we've been in situations, or not situations, but in cases where we're meeting with a company and they'll say, we read an article, a pretty favorable business article in the Wall Street Journal about the Brownsville area, and that helps in the decision-making process and picking a particular community. So whenever a corporate executive for one of these major companies can come out and tell you that, you've already done half your job right there. We analyze the incentives package, get into real estate, available workforce, and if it's a yes that they decide to locate into Brownsville, then we start working the actual groundbreaking, the announcement, them coming into the community. We start creating an economic summary for marketing purposes to market it to other clients, press releases, media coverage, and then we do a case study on the project, the economic impact that it's going to have, because then it's time to go and start working with local suppliers, or do we start looking at recruiting other suppliers that can come in with this particular company. And then this is where the BRE program, which is a business retention and expansion, comes into play. They are in charge of fostering the entry of the company into the area, and that is basically the start of a long-term relationship with the company here in Brownsville. And as you can see, this is just one of several items on a long checklist that we have when a company comes into town and everything that we need to do in order for them to come into the area. And then it's business retention. We work with the industry clusters. We identify potential expansion opportunities. For instance, CK Technologies, they came into the Brownsville area in 2011, and since then they have expanded their operation. They've gone above and beyond and met all of their expectations with what we had originally worked with them, and that's just an example of our BRE division working hand in glove with the company. This past year, we did 50 visits to local industry and assisted with 13 local expansion projects. So as you can see, our overall mission, it's no secret what we're trying to do here in the Brownsville area, South Texas, northern Mexico per se, since we cover both sides of the Rio Grande. We are aggressively competing in the global economy, not just for domestic, but foreign direct investment. That's really what we're trying to do, set ourselves apart. And how so? With what we call is the second part of the presentation that we're delivering, which is what we identified as a great convergence. And there's some kind of science to it. I'll explain it here in a bit. Brownsville has tripled in population since 1980. When I look at that figure, that's pretty astonishing. Just the fact that we've been able to keep up with that growth. Our land mass has also grown almost threefold during that same time period. And since the economic downturn, we've added at least one new school per year. So that's actually we've added 8 schools in the last 5 years. The same time period, Detroit closed. They actually closed 12 schools in a 2-year period. So we're in a very different situation. Manufacturing sector, it's grown since the downturn, and it's actually surpassed other cities in South Texas. And Brownsville is the only city in South Texas with multiple awards from the Texas Enterprise Fund. So again, this goes back to the BDC ecosystem that we have and the relationship that we have with the governor's office. And yet, Brownsville wants more. And I'll say, deservedly so. We deserve it. And here's how we see that it's all coming together. Well, we've then identified 7 elements of this great convergence. So I'll start with infrastructure. So in real estate, we have the GBIC large industrial user site. That's 350-acre development ready, tract of land out on the industrial corridor on the north side. The North Brownsville Industrial Park, now the Ship Channel Park, which is part of the SH 550 corridor, close to the Port of Brownsville. The East Loop corridor, and that's still in the planning stages. And then, as we all know, a commercial space corridor. On the transport side, again, it's related to some of the highways that we have here, but if you look now at the airport, we have capital improvements there. The Brownsville Ship Channel, that's again on our radar, the East Loop Corridor project. So you can see everything having to do with transportation. We're just busy in all different aspects here. The development of the extension of the overweight corridor, and then we have the Mazatlan to Matamoros interoceanic supervia as well. Energy infrastructure, we have a new 800 megawatt power plant, a partnership between Tenaska Energy and Brownsville PUB. And some of the projects that I'll be touching on here in a bit, we could not have been working those projects if we did not have this power plant coming online here in the next couple of years. Without power, we can't work some of these projects. We have these 345 kV lines that are coming into the area. And then our proximity, again, our geographic location to these new oil discoveries in the Gulf of Mexico, and then also the Eagle Ford Shale here in South Texas. So I'll elaborate on those here in a little bit. Water management, I will say, our city has done a great job in diversifying our water resources, and as you can see in the state of Texas, water has become an issue and will continue to be an issue moving forward. Our distribution, wastewater expansion project, as you can see, we're really on top of our water needs. And then communications infrastructure, because of SpaceX and Project Stargate, now we have addressed the fiber optic, we're working the fiber optic extension project. Second element is education. We have Texas Southmost College, which is now reinventing itself, TSTC, again, supporting a lot of the industry that's coming into the area. And then the new UT Medical School, the partnership with now the UT Rio Grande Valley. That's pretty significant. Now, if you look at it, I mean, it's, in their first year, they're going to be at about 26,000 students. Human capital, third element. We have the All-In program, which is addressing our workforce needs. It's, and now what we're seeing, these companies that are coming into the area, they're looking at the area from Brownsville to McAllen. Basically, they're looking to draw labor force from a region of 1.2 million people. Then if you look at the Mexican side, that's 2.5 million people, really in a 70-mile radius. So as you can see now, we're starting to think more regionally now. And then in the pipeline, some of the projects that we have in the pipeline, this is the other element of the convergence that we see. We have this machining center for heavy manufacturing that's looking at the city's north side along our industrial corridor. Our automotive supplier base is expanding, and I'll touch on this here in a little bit. Retail activity, we're starting to see it rebound, and there's some plans in the works to now start recruiting retail. And then, of course, our newest industry, which is space. Desalinization and energy, that's another project that's being pegged for the Port of Brownsville, and that's a huge project as well. And then we have 5 LNG projects that are shopping the Port of Brownsville. And that's not a coincidence. That's because of our proximity, again, to the natural gas shale fracking. Are we going to get all 5 LNG projects? Probably not. But if we get one of those, I mean, those are $2-3 billion projects. I think one of them is actually $6 billion in capital investment. Then we have an industrial park being developed by the private group, the Omnitrax, which is part of the Pro Group. The fifth element is the, actually that's the name of a movie, I think. The SpaceX Ripple. So the ripple effect from SpaceX, the investment that this community made, as you can see, these are all the funds that are coming in to support the SpaceX project for Brownsville. So as you can see, it starts with the Texas Spaceport Trust Fund, that's $13 million. Then you get into the TEF, and all the way down to Harlingen and McAllen contributing to this particular project. And our investment was $5 million. And this does not include what Point Isabel, Cameron County, and the Port of Brownsville are doing as well. So we consider them part of our local region here. But the money coming in from the outside for the SpaceX Texas launch site at Boca Chica, we're looking at more than $28 million in our return for our investment. On the supplier base, as you can see, direct employment, we're looking at about 500 jobs over a 10-year period. That's a program, that's a project that we have with them. That's more than $51 million in annual salaries. And as you can see, the opportunities are going to come by way of the suppliers. We're looking at 400 jobs over that 10-year period. And as you can see, Paragon D&E, which is the first official SpaceX supplier to have moved into their area, they're creating 40 jobs. That's already 10% of the 400 jobs that we were predicting that SpaceX was going to create by way of the suppliers. Along the lines of education, as you can see, there's opportunities for internships with the local school districts, and SpaceX has done a great job of reaching out to all to the school districts in the area, as well as the university and the colleges. We're now we're working, developing an entrepreneurial program, because working with this new group of, or not new group, but millennials in Brownsville that are entering the workforce, there's great opportunities for them along the lines of entrepreneurial opportunities, especially with SpaceX. There's going to be a space industry incubator through the Project Stargate program, and then now innovation. We can now have Brownsville and innovation, mention them on the same sentence. Under the commercial sector, as you can see, there's going to be about 15,000 visitors, and that's a conservative number per launch. There's already different hotels that are looking at coming into the area. There's a mall now, a second mall that's being considered for the Brownsville area as well, and at the top of the list has been SpaceX is coming in, and we know there's going to be an influx of people in that area. There's a visitor center that's being considered as well, and then of course the new Brownsville airport terminal that's in the planning stages as well. The sixth element is the geographic location. Brownsville has been a key point for trade, logistics, over really the history of the history of the city has been because of its geographic location. There's the Port of Brownsville, the airport at one point in time was the gateway to Latin America. International rail connectivity since the 1800s. We have pipeline connectivity to northern Mexico. Now we have the interstate, barge traffic, and now connectivity to outer space as well. Our proximity to gas and oil. Texas is in the middle of a major energy boom, and we happen to be right on the southern edge of the Eagle Ford Shale, and we're right next to the Burgos Shale on the Mexican side, and then we're 120 miles away from new oil discoveries in the Gulf of Mexico. So Brownsville is in a key location, especially when it comes to our port and servicing the offshore oil industry, and then also exporting natural gas. And then leadership and image, that is the seventh element. I was just at the International Economic Development Council conference, which is the trade association for our field of work. And everybody knows where Brownsville is, and everybody knows what's happening in Brownsville. And that had never happened before. I really had to explain to people, can you picture Texas, southernmost tip? That's where Brownsville's at. Every conversation I was having with people at that conference, and they drew people from around the U.S. and different parts of the world, they all wanted to know what was happening in Brownsville, and I think we all know why. So everybody's looking at this place. Corporate executives are keeping tabs on opportunities here now, and above all, good, stable leadership across the board, not just government, but when it comes to education, community leadership, social leadership, that's what's gonna make the difference now moving forward. So now's the time to flex our leadership muscle and really go out and recruit some of these companies. So in closing, we're on our way to becoming an example of success. And we're one of the youngest cities in the United States, and resurging cities are always driven by young, innovative entrepreneurs. We have the young, we have the innovative, and we're going to have the entrepreneurs. So I think now's the time to really start building on what we have. So really, in a nutshell, this is what we've identified as the 7 elements that are now lining up for what we're calling the Great Convergence in Brownsville. So now's the other part of the presentation. So I'll go through this pretty quick. The GBIC seedlings. So it's just some of the projects that we've worked. There's 5 projects, 5 examples of how money invested, money from this community invested in these particular projects and what they have provided in return. So for True Tone Finishing, it's an investment of $200,000 on behalf of GBIC, and in return we've expanded and provided much needed service in the automotive sector. Their investment was $2 million in capital. There are upwards of 100 jobs, and they've added a heat treat line, which is, this sets us apart from all other companies here in the Rio Grande Valley, for that part really in South Texas. So we're carving a niche when it comes to the automotive sector. So this is, for us in economic development and the automotive industry, having a heat treat line is extremely important and exciting for us. CK Technologies, a few years ago, the investment there on behalf of GBIC was $1 million, and in return we got almost $500,000 from the TEF, and that was the first TEF award in Brownsville and the second in the Rio Grande Valley. In return, it's about $18 million in capital investment, 170 plus jobs. Originally they were looking at about 120, they're at 170 now. They have taken up a third of the former Titan building, but now they're getting ready to take up half of that building. It's a great example of reusing an existing facility, and they are, again, how Brownsville is being set apart from everybody else. They are the largest plastic injection molder west of the Mississippi River. So again, this is another niche that we can hang our hat on. And also, just to add on CK Technologies, Paragon D&E is a subsidiary of Cascade Engineering, which is the parent company of CK Technologies. That was another one of the reasons why Paragon decided to come into our area to service CK Technologies, and knowing that they've had success here in the area with this particular enterprise. And now they're looking at another company that is also, it's in the, they manufacture plastic bins. And again, this is another company under the Cascade Engineering, and it all was a result of this community working with CK Technologies way back when. Maximus Call Center, the investment there was $240,000 per year, and in return, they're pumping about $13 million in just an annual payroll here since they started a little over a year ago. Right now, they are at about 600 plus employees, but they have another month or 2 months. They're in a hiring mode. They need to get to about 800 employees right now. And again, another example of a great reusing a former call center facility here in the area. Project Stargate. This is the investment there was $500,000, and return $4.6 million from the UT system. That again, unprecedented. It's pretty significant in the sense that the UT system carved out money for this particular project. $4.4 million from the Emerging Technology Fund, this is through the governor's office, and then $1.2 million through an EDA grant. And now we're establishing a true R&D center with an incubator for our area. And again, this goes back to that young innovation and entrepreneurial spirit that we want in this city in order to become that resurgent city. Internship opportunities, so on and so forth. Paragon D&E, again, this is a result of working CK Technologies. The investment was $300,000, $1 million in capital investment from their part. They created 40 new jobs, and again, they are now they're a tool and die facility or service provider, and they're going to be servicing some of the bigger automotive companies in the area, not just in here in the area, but as well as Monterrey, Mexico, and the Texas market. And again, setting ourselves apart by having something that no other city in South Texas has. And they're the first official SpaceX supplier. So in addition to job creation, I'm almost done. Yeah, I've got like 2 minutes to go. So in addition to job creation and investments, as you can see, there's a recurrent theme in these projects that we're working, that it's setting Brownsville apart from its competition. And lastly, I've got just one more GBIC seedling. And of course, if you remember, this is a SpaceX project. And you can see this is all the different funds and money that came in to support a project in the space industry for Brownsville, which is a SpaceX Texas launch site. That's the official name of it. $28 million for a $5 million investment by the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. And that is the story of the Brownsville Great Convergence.
Very good. Thank you, Gil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm one of the GBIC members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And it's an honor to work with them. And before I was on the GBIC board, I always had all of these questions. Well, what's going on over there? And then I got there, and I saw how much work is done, and it's not really publicized, of course, but you all are doing a wonderful job, and we are very, very grateful for everything that you've been doing. So I'm glad you were here today to tell the public exactly what's going on and how Brownsville is changing.
Commissioner, thank you very much. I would like to say one thing. I believe that the city of Brownsville has a great economic development team staff. I can't do anything without my team. With Gilbert Salinas, and we have several members, you stand up in the back, please, that handle our business retention, the research, and I have 2 other members who are not here today. They're in Fort Worth in training. And so we're putting a lot of emphasis on the training of our staff to make sure that they're doing the best they can for this community. And I think they're doing an outstanding job. And I appreciate the support of the city, and I appreciate the support of GBIC, because Without GBIC, we couldn't do anything. And so we thank you.
Well, thanks to
Thank
all of you.
you.
The city thanks you very much, and Commissioner, thank you for serving on that board. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Jason, before you leave, can I speak to you tomorrow morning about 9 o'clock? So I got to leave 10?
I'll be in Austin, but yes.
Okay.
Item 5, consent agenda items A and B.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 6, consideration and action to appoint and/or reappoint members to the Brownsville Beautification Committee.
Okay. I thought Jolie was going to be here because he's the chair, but, okay. So we,
You got a member requesting to be reappointed?
reappointment,
Alberto Garcia wishes to be reappointed.
okay. How many vacancies do we have?
One.
Okay, well, I'll move to reappoint Albert.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And Justin Dindale does not wish to be reappointed, so you have the applicants.
One more vacancy?
Yes, sir.
I don't see anybody from District 1 up there. Do you have anybody?
There's no applicants from District 1.
We just
We
have the
can-
applicant, whoever requested to be appointed.
We can hold it if he has somebody in mind. You okay?
Maria Hernandez is from District 2.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Maria Hernandez.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 7, consideration and action to appoint members to the Charter Review Committee.
Mayor, I've spoken to Commissioner Portillo, and she would like a little bit more time to maybe recruit some other individuals. I'm not sure, she's not here, so I'm not sure what direction she would like to take.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item will be tabled.
Item number 8, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 2014-1595 to deal with the collection of recyclable items in connection with the city recycling program, specifying charges and related matters. We're going to table that, Mayor? Recycling?
Recycling, was this item to be tabled, reconsidered, or something?
This item can be heard. It's the
Okay.
contract,
Yeah,
you may want to wait till the second.
yeah, you have to have a second reading, so you're not going to be able to vote on any contract.
Right.
So this is just for the
You can do
ordinance.
the first reading of the ordinance.
Okay, fine.
Consider it.
So it's a public hearing.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, this is first public hearing on the ordinance regarding the residential curbside recycling. And I'll spend some time with you on what we have done the last few months regarding this particular item. We started sinking formal seal bids way back in June of 2014. The proposals were for either voluntary or mandatory curbside recycling services. A total of 29 companies on the Texas Bid System website received an invitation to participate, but only 9 companies accessed and downloaded the RFP package. Then we had a pre-proposal meeting was conducted on July 30th. 5 companies attended this meeting. Only 3 proposals were received by the deadline, of which was August 20th, and they're listed there. Allied Waste, which is also Republic Services, Redfish Recycling, and Consorcio Xochimilcali. Redfish was the only company that submitted a voluntary curbside recycling proposal, but they would only provide the service if at least 4,000 homes are going to participate. The bi-weekly rate for the voluntary program is $5, which equals to bi-weekly, which equals to a monthly rate of $10.83. Again, they will do the voluntary but they also need at least 4,000 homes to participate, and that's Redfish. The evaluation, the other company, Allied Waste Republic Services, did not propose a voluntary home recycling. The evaluation committee members were the Public Works Director, Santana Torres, Health Director, Art Rodriguez, City Auditor, Arvin Tucker, Health and Communities member, Rose Timmer, and myself. The evaluation committee met on August 29th, September 8th, 16th, September 16th to discuss the evaluation process and to review the proposals that were submitted. After the review, the top 2 firms were selected, and they were Allied Waste, Republic Services, and Redfish Recycling. Interviews were conducted on August 12th with Allied Waste and Redfish. The committee studied it, and they ranked Redfish Recycling as the best firm. Redfish Recycling proposed a lower monthly household rate of $4.16 versus Allied Waste monthly rate of $5.31. And again, this would be on a mandatory. In other words, all the households in Brownsville would be charged this fee if the curbside recycling is adopted on this particular first reading. The Redfish Recycling proposed a higher annual estimated profit sharing of $126,324 versus $38,253.60 for Allied Waste, and as shown on Exhibit B, and you'll see that on Exhibit B, slide 14. Redfish Recycling is planning on hiring an additional 26 employees versus 1 or 2 to be hired by Allied Waste. Now, both companies, Redfish Recycling and Allied Waste, have experience in managing a recycling operation, so they're both strong companies. On September 26th and October 8th, we had the negotiations committee consisted of Roberto Luna, Lupe Granado, Arvin Tucker, Art Rodriguez, and myself. We met with Redfish Recycling to negotiate the best offer. As part of the negotiations, Redfish Recycling will provide complimentary recycling services to all city-owned locations or facilities, and that they will accept payments on billings and not collections. One of the main programs that definitely we need is education. So Redfish will be tagging containers to educate the customers about contamination. The driver or helper will inspect random containers to check for contamination. More inspection will be needed during the implementation period, first 3 months. If a container is found with trash in it, it will be tagged with an explanation of why it was not picked up and will be serviced on the next scheduled service day. The residential recycling program will begin on March 1st. I know that we met with several of you last week, and the date that we had pointed out to you was February 1st. Well, that has been moved to March 1st. The term of the agreement, if it gets adopted, will be for 5 years, beginning on around March 1st, 2015, and expired on 28th February of 2020. We are right now have a recycling center on Elizabeth Street that's being run by GMS, and citizens can drop all the recyclable items on that location. And during fiscal year 2014, the city collected from GMS $14,696. GMS does not keep a dollar. They all forward the funds to the city, and that was $14,696. Allied Waste also has what we call the pilot program. We started off with around 1,200 homes using an 18-gallon container. The number of participating homes have more or less fallen to around 400. A 96-gallon container will be used for the mandatory curbside recycling. We received so far it hasn't been very positive. We only received $762 and it says GMS. It should be Allied Waste. Allied Waste is handling the pilot, not GMS. We compare the two companies. Obviously, they're both having mandatory participation. The number of homes that were going to be built by PUB is 33,461. That's the latest count. The biweekly rate, there will be a biweekly pickup, and the monthly rate again is $4.16 for Redfish, and the monthly rate for Republic or Allied Waste is $5.31. Both contracts, or each contract, well, in this case, it will be Redfish has a franchise fee to be paid by the city for 6%, and there's also a billing fee by PUB at 3%. We estimate, these are all estimated numbers, that the estimated monthly recyclable tons will be 660. The estimated annual recyclable tons is 7,920. There is what we call profit sharing. Redfish has agreed to pay 50% of the sales that they have on recyclables after a $90 per ton processing fee is deducted. Republic or Allied Waste just quoted a $4.83 per ton. That's the average. So the annual projected cost per household, and it's listed on A, that's $49.92 for Redfish and $63.72 for Republic. Again, this is just an explanation of what this profit sharing from Redfish. Profit shares with the city will be based on the blended value per ton minus $90 per ton processing fee. So you take the blended value per ton, the $90 divided by 2. The average profit share over the last 5 years is $121.90, and that's shown on Schedule C, which you'll see on slide 15. So the profit sharing is a little higher than the one that's being offered by Allied Waste. If these projections hold, the total amount of money to the city would be $126,324 coming from Redfish. There are several utility providers that service some of our customers that live within the city, and there's El Jardín Water Supply, Olmito, and Military Highway Water Supply. We have excluded these accounts from the recyclable services, and some of the reason why we're doing this because some of these providers are small. They don't have the software to include a possible another deduction. We are working with them, see if they bill. Right now, they're billing our garbage fees. They were able to do that. That's the garbage fees that they pay for those areas that are outside that are being serviced by those three companies. And again, this is just how the numbers came about. The Redfish would collect $45.80 and on a yearly basis per household. Allied Waste $58.44, and from there they would deduct the 6% coming to the city and the PUB fee, and that equals to the $49.92 that was just presented to you earlier for Redfish and $63.70 for Allied Waste. The blended value, and this is what we call the blended value. We have years from 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014. That's more or less how much some of these recycles have been sold, the cardboard, the mixed paper, the pad, plastic number 1, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then when we took an average, we add those 5 years, took an average, and it's $121.90. That's where the number comes from. So $121.90 minus the 90-cent processing fee would equal to a net per ton of $31.90. We divide that equally. $50.95 stays with the city, and $50.95 goes to Redfish. Again, the rate for Allied Waste is $4.83. Again, we are estimating monthly tons to be recycled, 660. And those numbers, the monthly estimated profit to the city, if we award the contract to Redfish, is $10,527, and the amount for Allied Waste is $3,087. The total annual profit to the city would be $126,324 versus $38,253.60. I've gone over this. Contamination. Allied Waste indicated to us that if there's a contamination rate between 1% and 10%, they would pay $7.50 because that would be a lower contamination. If it's 10 to 15, it'll be $5. 15% and higher will be $2. And this is where we came up with the 483 that we just told you about, that it's an average $4.83 from Allied Waste. This is the vehicle that Redfish would use. What is the short-term effect, the recycling program to the city? We said single stream tonnage coming out of the landfill, 660 tons times $30 per ton. That's, again, we're estimating 660 tons that would not go into the landfill, it'd be recycled items. So it's $19,800 that we would lose. But we would also make up that up with other, we would have the franchise fee that we generate $8,351. The average rebate per month, and this is all Redfish, $10,527. And then we have the contamination rate times 660 tons. That's $2,970. Total monthly revenue would be $21,848. If you deduct the $21,848 that we would get, minus the $19,800 that we would lose, we would have a net gain of $22,049. Long-term effect and benefits of the recycling program. One of the things that we found out is that right now our landfill has a life capacity of 41 years. They estimate, our consultant, RJ Engineering, indicates to us that by recycling, based on the tonnage that we have presented, we would extend the life of the landfill by 8 months. By extending the life of the landfill by 8 months, that means we would have extra months to generate revenues for us, because it would be a longer span. Participation rates of other Texas cities. This is on a 96-gallon cart. McAllen has a 60%. So we know that by what other cities are going through, we know that not everyone is going to be participating, even though they're going to be charged the monthly fee of $4.16. Studies had shown that not everybody participates in the recycling program. McAllen 60%, Laredo 65%, Corpus Christi 65%, San Antonio 75%, Plano 76%, Garland. Now this is on the 96-gallon cart. Normally the participation rate on an 18-gallon cart is a lot lower, and as you can see, it's in Grand Prairie is 25%. This is on a voluntary. Again, when we go voluntary, we don't fare well. People are not going to recycle. But if it's mandatory, then it's a higher rate. What are the monthly rates from us, our neighboring cities? We have McAllen at $433 per month, Corpus Christi $418, Garland $648. This is the overall, I guess, fees that these homeowner would be paying. Right now, they're paying for the garbage fee. If you have one container, they pay $20.76. 2 containers, $27.83. And then you have the backdoor walk-in on the garbage, it's $29.26. Now, if the city commission decides to do the curbside recycling mandatory, then it'd be a $4.16 added to all of those categories. So one household with one container that, in other words, their fees are going to go. They'll be paying $24.92, $31.99, and $33.42. And that concludes the public hearing, Mayor. So, again, it's a public hearing. So.
Public hearing?
Yes.
Public hearing.
Good afternoon, Tony. Good afternoon, distinguished people. First of all, I need to say I love Brownsville. Even though my family has recently relocated up the road to San Benito, I am a taxpayer in Brownsville, and I own a business concern, or my wife owns a business concern. I work for her. Profit sharing, as was demonstrated up there, that to me is a no-brainer. I have an example, a personal example I can relate. I have no dog in this hunt anymore. Okay, I had dogs in hunts when it came to recycling before they were shot down. We finally have a class act. We have a redfish container in the parking lot of the complex where my building is, which is directly across from Stell Middle School. I, like the other students of learning, arrive between 6:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning. It is so very, very nice not have to go out and pick up the plastics and the things like this that normally would go into a recycling bin. It is also so very nice of when the drivers for Redfish Recycling obey the school laws, are very courteous, let the school buses pass, let the people drop off their children, and always have a friendly wave. That blows me away. I envisioned this happening years ago. I'm so grateful that it happened in my town now. I do not believe that voluntary curbside recycling is the answer. I believe it ought to be mandatory. I'm a firm believer in that. Brownsville, when I have the occasion, and I don't have the occasion often because we are quite busy, as Gilbert demonstrated, we have a lot going on. But when we travel out of town and we arrive back into the valley, my children, my family say, wow, where are the trees and why all the garbage? It is so nice to drive around this city and to see places that used to be junk piles, no longer junk piles. It's been a very aggressive, I don't know, people call me aggressive, I don't think that is correct, but it has been a very aggressive campaign that Redfish Recycling has taken on. Anytime I have a question, anytime that I have a client from out of town that has a question, I can refer them to Redfish, and the phone is answered immediately. That is an asset, folks. With all that we have happening in this town, and all that we have happening in the future in this town, we need a company such as Redfish Recycling, or a company of their stature, to take the bull by the horns and to clean this place up. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dutch.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Craig Timmer. I'm not going to address who should get the contract because I think Mr. Gonzalez did a super job of presenting the information. I think it's a no-brainer. But the real issue here is whether or not we're actually going to have curbside recycling. As you saw from the figures earlier, the recycling program that we have on Elizabeth Street is working. However, there are a lot of people who simply don't want to take the time or the effort or the energy to bring their recyclables over there. Therefore, a very large number of recyclables do not get recycled. They wind up in the landfill. Part of the reason I think that, well, I've got three reasons here. The first reason that I think we need to have a recycling program is our natural resources, in spite of all the shale, all the drilling offshore, our natural resources of any nature are depleting. That's just, that's a given. We can't reproduce tin unless we recycle it. It only comes from one place. The same thing with aluminum, the same thing with oil. We really need to recycle so we reduce our dependence on natural resources. The second is to increase the longevity of the landfill. I was quite startled, very honestly, by the numbers. I thought it would be closer to 2 years, but 8 months is 8 months. 10 years ago, when I was doing some volunteering with the city on home composting, the cost per acre of developing a new landfill was $1 million. I don't know what it is now. That was 10 years ago. We currently have, I think, 21 acres at our landfill. $21 million would be a small number if we had to redo that again in 1940-something. I probably won't even be here, 1950-something, 2050. But anyway, so we need to be thinking about that longevity. We need a futuristic approach to this whole problem, this whole issue. And I do think that curbside recycling is the answer. I also think that if we mandated recycling, it would give every individual in the city an opportunity for ownership. Ownership in the sense that they are now doing something that is going to benefit their community. We have a lot of people who don't know how to get involved in being a benefit to the community, and those folks could grab an ownership. The numbers that came out with the BEDC numbers, 3 times the population since 1980, 3 times the landmass coverage since 1980. That is not only going to increase, it's going to increase almost geometrically once we bring all these fantastic new opportunities into Brownsville. So we really need to think futuristically, and we need to reduce our dependence on natural resources. We need to increase the longevity of the landfill, and we need to give the people of Brownsville a sense of ownership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Esty. This is another thing that I'm not very happy, and I don't think the people are going to be happy. Now we're going to be taxed twice for garbage. Our regular garbage, which is $19, and now we're being forced to admit, because it seems like it's already a done deal again. Who came up with this idea? If you want to have recycling, do it voluntarily, and I guarantee you, people are not going to volunteer for this. Brownsville can recycle itself. Why don't we build a recycling plant? Very simple. We're going to have a company that's going to come in here. You're going to give us more containers so we can recycle what I cannot recycle. Because basically, I only make 1 bag of trash per month for a week. What am I going to recycle? Why should I pay double for my garbage? And a lot of people don't know. I'm going to go back to the Galaxia and tell those people, yes, they're going to charge you now $5 and something for something that we didn't ask. You had that recycling volunteer program and it failed. It failed. Not that it failed, they stole the boxes too. Come on, let's be honest about this. And to save the landfill for 8 months, it's like me dying and I'm going to live 1 more day. I might just die now and get it over with. This does not make sense. Whoever came up with this is doing another socialist system. Brownsville is not a socialist system. We live here free independently, yet you're going to bring this down our throats. And I am very ashamed if you all going to propose and pass this. I report every mess up down on Military Highway, and I do. But nobody cares. Last time I even called city manager because somebody put on the overpass blank U, humongous in cups. And I call and talk to the secretary, you bring somebody over here and take those words off that fence for all the people coming into Brownsville. But here we have a recycling system. And to make a few dollars, it doesn't make sense. If you're going to build 33,000 people at $5 and something, you figure out the math, it comes out to $2.5 million. And he's saying we're only gonna make $20,000? 26,000? The math doesn't add up. You wanna have recycling? Do it voluntarily. Don't give us another tax. Brownsville is poor enough. We barely can even clean our own streets. We have a plastic ban, a smoking ban, and what else are we going to be telling our future children? We can't do anything free in Brownsville. We're not. Nobody wants to speak about this. Like I said, I'm going back to the Galaxy area. I'm going to tell those people, this is what's coming. Do you have a choice? No, because our fathers here, the mayor and the commissioners, they are saying, we know how to take care of you, and that's not true. So you better think about this. Every time you bring this issues, and I think somebody's bringing this up. I don't know who it is. Just like the 75 cents coming up for parking. Look at, nobody's parking anymore. Nobody's parking. And it's happening. Everything we try to do fails. Why? Because of lack of communication. This is only happening here. Nobody knows it's happening out tomorrow. Will the Brownsville Herald put it out tomorrow? I hope they do. Because the Brownsville Herald is not even selling newspapers neither. Try to buy Brownsville Herald on Monday. 2 pages for 75 cents? And that's Sunday's news? We have to end this madness. But yet you don't really care, basically. Maybe at the elections, we can do something about it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Teresa Saldivar. I'm a resident here in Brownsville. I support recycling and curbside. However, I do think maybe voluntary is the way to go for us. I know my neighbor who's elderly and on an extremely fixed income could not afford even $2 more, really. I mean, we share our meals with him. He's struggling. The market wiped out his retirement fund. We have a lot of people like that in our community, and that's why they're here, because they can afford to live here. So where I do believe in recycling, I'm all for it. Curbside, I would participate voluntarily. I can afford to pay that little bit more to do that. But I really think we need to consider our seniors who are really, really struggling. And but I support Rose's project and everybody else's work. They're doing a good job. I don't know that 8 months, extending the life of something for 8 months is really worth it. It seemed like we went through a lot of work to get there, just to get 8 months. But there's got to be something we can do. So there's my support. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Rose Timmer, and I'm the Executive Director for Healthy Communities of Brownsville. And we have been spearheading a lot of the projects that Mr. Uriste is talking about. But our only goal is to make Brownsville a better place to live. And yes, we do have a plastic bag ordinance. We also have a non-smoking ordinance. And now we are asking people to participate in curbside recycling. We have done our surveys, we have done our background work, we have done the pilot program. I personally have visited other cities. During the summer, I spent part of my vacation visiting and talking to other cities about curbside recycling. And I don't understand why we don't have it here in Brownsville. We are very close to the border. We have a lot of resources. We have a lot of new things coming to Brownsville. I get very angry when somebody says that we're a poor city. Yes, maybe in black and white we are on somebody's paper, but I resent being called a poor city, because what you put into your city, whether it's picking up trash or recycling a plastic bottle or paying your taxes, voting is important. What you put into that is what you're going to get out of it. And there are a lot of us that are very rewarded, very happy for living here in Brownsville. We can't do curbside recycling on a volunteer basis. I don't feel that we can. Statistics show that we can't. But I appreciate the work that the committee did, the work that the committee who met every week to try to get this going and give you all a solid plan. And I just hope that we have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Do I hear anybody else? Hear a
Move
motion
to close public comment.
I would just like to say just one quick thing. If we had 60% participation in our voting.
Okay. We
Move
have a
to
motion
close.
to close. Do I have a second? Public hearing?
No.
Is there a second to close public hearing? Okay, all those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye. Aye.
On the closing?
Okay, motion carries.
You can't abstain on the close.
Is there a motion to approve?
Wait, I have a question before we approve. I'm sorry. I thought we were just passing the ordinance. We're not awarding the contract to a specific entity today.
No, this can't happen. It's got to have a second reading, and that's
Okay.
what I'm saying. It's just a motion to approve.
Okay.
Only for
First
the-
reading.
This is only for the ordinance.
So it's the ordinance to make it mandatory?
To set the rate,
To set
To
the rate.
what?
to set the $4.16 rate.
But we're
We
not.
required an ordinance for any fee that you adopt, so that's what
Okay,
the
and we're
ordinance
not saying, stipulating whether it's going to be mandatory or voluntary either,
Yes.
correct?
Well, there's a fee.
It's meant,
The 416
So it's not
is
voluntary.
mandatory. But you have a choice. You have a choice to go with the other one, too.
Well, I'm not comfortable
The
with.
committee
going-
was recommending mandatory, but U.S. City Commission can approve voluntary.
I would like to make a motion to make it voluntary at the rates that you stipulated.
That would mean we have to have so many homes.
Yeah, because Redfish was offering the service
The-
if we had
the-
a certain percentage rate participate on a voluntary basis.
Right.
So it's just going to be a matter of us educating the community, look, we need you to participate,
Now-
it's voluntary.
Let's keep in
Correct,
mind
and I
that
think
if
with a
Redfish,
good effort from us advocating and putting it out there to the community, I think, I want to believe that we have 4,000 residents in our community that want to participate in the recycling effort. I don't think we have to force it on individuals that cannot afford it. I mean, I have neighbors in my neighborhood that they're sharing bins and they're participating, they want to participate, but they can't afford that additional expense. So I want to be able to make it available for those individuals in the community, and I think we can get those 4,000 people, members in our community, to participate on a voluntary basis, and hopefully grow it. So that's my motion.
okay, there's a motion on the floor. And does the ordinance indicate mandatory or voluntary? It says mandatory, right?
Well, my motion was for it to be
Yeah.
voluntary.
I think if
It's
I
gonna-
read this ordinance correctly, what you're voting here is, if you want to have a different ordinance, you're going to have to change this and go back to public hearing and the whole mark, isn't that correct? So this one is mandatory, and, yeah, and I wish I could answer questions, but the public, we did close public hearing, so we're not taking any more public comments. What we are taking is an action on the reading on the ordinance, and if there's a motion to that effect, I would appreciate hearing it.
Perhaps we should reread the ordinance.
So for or against mandatory is.
This is, that
on
the ordinance says mandatory.
Yeah.
But you have to read the language.
That's what we're
You
voting
have to
Right.
specifically,
I would like to make the amendment to the ordinance to read where it's voluntary, and you can make that motion.
yeah, she can ask that the first reading of the ordinance be approved with amended language, but she's got to specify what the language is.
Okay, well, I mean, you're the lawyer, but what I'm saying is, if you have an amended ordinance, do you not have to publish that out first and then have the first hearing? That's what I'm
No,
saying.
the notice is adequate if the ordinance is
Okay,
published.
as long as the
But she
notice
can-
is adequate.
Yeah, but she can pass it, she can vote with an amendment. She can vote with an amendment. And then the second reading, it'll be up as an amended ordinance.
Okay,
She can do that.
so
That's my
You want to make the
motion.
motion?
you want to make the motion as amended? In other
As-
words, the
yes.
ordinance is mandatory, but you're trying to say voluntarily.
Correct.
May I say something regarding voluntary? On the pilot program that we have, we started off with X amount, 1,200, and then it went down to 400. There is going to be an accounting, I guess, nightmare, because people can drop from one day to the next, and we have to go back and refund. And so so you'll know, voluntary.
And I'm aware
And
of that.
I guess we
but-
would have to ask, if we award the contract to Redfish, once, they're asking for 4,000. If we don't have the 4,000, they may just,
Could be different.
Well, but that's why we should be doing a better job of educating the community and trying helping them to understand that. Why are we forcing it on them where they cannot afford their basic necessities? If you go down and talk to some of those individuals, I mean, some of us can afford it, some of us cannot, and some of us want to participate, but we cannot afford it, and we would like to participate, and they participate with their neighbors, or they get together in their communities and do their recycling efforts. But as it stands right now, I've gone and I recycle, and I encourage my neighbors to recycle, but I don't think this is something that we should force on them.
It looks like we've got.
Mr. Mayor, while it's technically possible to amend the ordinance and vote on an amendment, I'd also point out that there's a rate that's set in this ordinance. And if you're going with an elective
That's what I'm
deal,
saying. If you're gonna
that
have
rate is going to
yeah.
be different. So
If you're going to have a hybrid here, this ordinance will not stand muster. I mean, that's all there is to it. If I could suggest something that we table this, because it looks like, I think most of us would like to have an environmentally progressive pattern in the city, but I think that there is some economic concerns with a certain segment of society that may not be able to partake of that, or, pay that particular fee. And I'm not so much worried about making money for the city as I am is to make the city look better and more beautiful. And perhaps maybe we could go back to the drawing board and figure out that whatever, monies we can make. I mean, at PUB, what we did was we kept the rates on a certain user of PUB, wattage and water, whatever, and that rate has never gone up since I've been around. It's stayed the same. The people that use more get charged whatever the rate was that's going higher. But it stays the same for some of these folks that are on fixed incomes and cannot afford to do so. So I would entertain a table.
But there was a motion.
A motion
But there was
to table?
I made a motion, so we have to take action on that motion first.
Well, no. What happens is your motion to amend, that's what I'm saying, is fraught with problems because you got a
I'm just
rate.
bringing up a point that there's a motion to amend, but the point is, one other point is that this ordinance sets a rate.
That's what I'm saying.
And the rate is based on universal.
That's what Pete's trying
But
to tell
Pete,
you.
if I'm understanding correctly, the rate, Redfish gave us their fees based on it being voluntary as well. And so that rate stands regardless of whether it's mandatory or voluntary.
That's a $10 fee, right?
So the rate is the same, whether it's
1083.
voluntary or mandatory.
1083.
Yeah. I mean, there is a proposal for those that want to do it voluntary, and it's 1083. If anybody would like to do it voluntarily.
It just goes higher, yeah. So if you go voluntary, you're gonna get charged $10. If you go mandatory, you're gonna go $4?
I'm still okay with that. I would make the motion to make it voluntary at the 1083 rate.
I'll second the motion.
To make it voluntary?
Okay,
Yes.
Mark, it's okay?
And who seconded?
Okay.
The motion on the floor is to amend the ordinance, or to enact the ordinance, but with the amendment that it would be an elective, and it would be charged at the 1083 rate as opposed to the 416 rate.
Okay, you got a motion to that effect made by Commissioner and second by Commissioner Longoria. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's how many, 2? 3?
How many votes?
Let the record reflect that I abstained.
We need 4 votes to pass an ordinance.
I'm not voting for that.
Okay, then it doesn't pass.
So what happens?
So it
It
fails.
doesn't pass, it failed.
It doesn't pass.
That didn't pass.
You need 4 votes to pass an ordinance.
I don't, if you got 3 people and she, and she made the motion, there's nobody that can make the, there's no sense in going anything further, because you're not gonna get the sufficient votes to go with a $4 rate at mandatory. It just fails. Ordinance does not pass.
Ordinance doesn't pass.
So what do you want to say?
The ordinance is unamended, it's not passed?
You're
She
not
didn't
gonna
have
get
the
the
votes.
votes.
The vote's already been taken.
There weren't votes.
You'd have to have a motion right now by some commissioner or myself to pass a motion making it mandatory, but you've already got 3 votes voting against it the other way, so what are we doing?
Fails.
It's a failed motion. Next item.
Item number 9.
Item number 9.
Item number 9, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2014-035 to rezone from dwelling G classification to apartment G classification for 1.5 acres out of Block 31 of El Jardín subdivision located at 1447 North Minnesota Avenue.
Mayor, members of the commission, this is a rezoning from dwelling G to dwelling A. As you can see on the map, it's located on North Minnesota. This is next to apartment zoning. This was before the Planning and Zoning Commission. All in favor of the rezoning.
Public hearing.
I don't have a dog in this hunt either, but I do.
Public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Who to approve?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 10, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 235-2014-036-S to allow apartments G classification and a general retail G classification for Lot 2, Block 7 of the Preserve at Forest subdivision located at 5505 Sleepy Hollow.
As you can see on the map projected on the screen, this is Paredes line. Out on Gloria, this area shaded in red is for the specific use for 27 units. We had this at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Again, all in favor of the specific use.
Is there other apartments around there?
Yes, well, condominiums right on this area. And some others here on this, the Neb Road, already got the rezoning for apartments.
Move to close public comment?
I think we have a
Oh, do we have somebody?
Dutch?
Public hearing?
Oh,
You're in favor? Public hearing.
Yes, but I'm gonna get up here
Voting
because I
member.
need to say something about this corner. This corner is a dangerous corner because it's never cut. The grass. It's also a very ugly corner because it's never cut and it accumulates garbage. And number 3, there are some very nice condominium and apartment complexes around there that would only add to the value. And there has been no objection by the people that have dwellings along Willow Bend that I know of, Nicholstone, or anywhere in Forest North.
thank you.
Thank you.
Move to close?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Move to approve?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 11, public comment, Mr. Robert Item 12, consideration and action to authorize the execution of an interlocal cooperative agreement with Cameron County Texas Tax Assessor Collector for tax assessment and collection of city ad valorem taxes.
Mayor, Commissioners, what's before you is a new contract with the county to continue collecting ad valorem taxes. The reason for the change is that for the last couple of years, I think we've now twice gone out and hired our own attorneys to collect delinquent taxes. I'm estimating that it probably took at least 50 to 60 man-hours to hire the same firm that the county hires. And what we'd like to do is just leave that up to the county, so that, you know, we no longer go through the exercise of hiring our own counsel. That, you know, that whoever the county hires, if they hire somebody that's unacceptable, we can terminate this contract. But by passing this amended contract, we won't have to go through, the RFPs and all that kind of thing to hire someone to collect delinquent taxes that has turned out to be the same people that collect the county taxes.
But yet we have an out if we don't like who they choose?
Yeah. Yeah, if we don't like who they choose, we can terminate the contract in 30 days' notice and, then work with the county on an amendment so that we can go back and hire our own counsel.
And let's just say for argument's sake that we're not in agreement with who the county chooses. Do we have a time window? Do we have a period in there where we have to go out for proposals again?
No,
and during that time, what happens?
Well, what would happen is that we would give our 30 days notice of intent to terminate the contract. The contract, I doubt, would be terminated. We'd continue having the county collect the taxes. Their attorneys would continue to work while we were selecting our own.
And give me the reason why we want to go along with them, John. I see you said we've spent 50 or 60 man-hours doing what?
Evaluating, putting out proposals, evaluating the proposals, interviewing the firms, that kind of thing. And it's just, it takes an awful lot of time and to put us right where the county is.
No, I understand, but I don't know that we're always going to be there. I mean, as one well knows, politics is a strange thing.
Yes, yeah.
And you never know who is going to be governing, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And that's my only caveat to this commission, is you don't know who's going to be there. Sometimes they make good choices, sometimes they don't. I haven't always found that there's a pattern to that. It just sort of depends on.
Well, Mayor, I agree. I mean, one of these years the county may come up with a clunker.
Yeah, I think what I would suggest, just my opinion, would be figure out how do we streamline that process of the 50 or 60 man-hours, and so we still make a decision, because I would like to still stay autonomous of other political entities, to be honest with you. I'm just not really enamored of letting someone else choose who I'm going to use as a lawyer.
Well, Mayor, what happens is that you lose the economies of scale if you don't use the county's attorneys. If we used a different law firm, then that law firm would have to, we'd have to sort out who's suing who, and it gets very complicated, because the county's firm would be suing to collect past due taxes on a whole bunch of jurisdictions, except the city of Brownsville.
Okay.
Then our lawyers would have to sue to collect the city of Brownsville. It just gets to be.
Okay, well, it's an action item. Does anybody have a motion?
Move to deny?
Move to deny. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of that?
Aye.
Motion carries. It's been denied, John.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay, item 13, consideration and action to accept a routine airport maintenance grant in the amount of $50,000 from the Texas Department of Transportation for projects at the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport.
Mayor and City Commissioners, we're requesting that you accept this grant from the Texas Department of Aviation. It's a $50,000 grant, and it requires a 1-to-1 match. At a minimum, we'll match it with the money from the airport's budget. One of the projects we propose to do with this, if all goes well, is to put in a permanent monument sign at the airport for the airport. Staff recommends approval.
To approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Harry Brown.
Item number 14.
Item 14, consideration and action on resolution number 2014-060, ratifying acceptance of grant number 3480041-042-2014 from the Federal Aviation Administration in the amount of $1,088,000 for various projects at the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport.
Can you? Mayor, City Commissioners, we're requesting that you take action to pass a resolution accepting this grant. As you recall, we had showed you these pictures previously in terms of a series of projects, 7, that are proposed to be done at the Brownsville Airport, several of which relate to the potential construction of a new passenger terminal, as well as doing a major rehabilitation job on our airport rescue firefighting vehicle. The process that you start tonight by accepting this allows us to enter into the contracts, to get the ARP vehicle fixed, as well as to do the environmental assessment that is necessary. And that's a key step that we have to do now in order to get to the point where we can eventually build a new passenger terminal and rely upon the FAA for participation in funding of the terminal. Staff recommends approval.
Local match?
It does require a local match. The local match is going to be provided, but with PFC funds.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Item 15, consideration and action.
So
16.
you have to go to 16. We've already approved 15.
I'm sorry, yes. Item 16, consideration and action on resolution number 2014-061 in support of the state of Texas expansion of statewide access to health care coverage for adults, taking advantage of federal matching funds that would provide a significant economic boost and local taxpayer relief, as well as access to the right care in the right place for millions of currently uninsured Texans.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. Essentially, this resolution is our city moving forward with the issue of Medicaid expansion and affecting 95% of our population in Brownsville. This resolution essentially would put us with the city at the state level knowing where we stand on this issue. Currently, states that have adopted for this expansion have seen a 38% decrease or increase of those who are insured rather versus the states that have it at 9%. It also, the latest research a year for the states that adopted it have shown that it does improve the health and wellness of those that are seeking access to health care earlier in stages. That reduces the direct cost of health care, and it also maintains a healthier population. So I asked my recommendation is approval.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you.
Item 17, consideration and action to approve a memorandum of understanding between the City of Brownsville and the Brownsville Independent School District regarding specified use of various parks and/or athletic facilities by both BISD and the COB for organized team sports and athletics functions, as well as the use of specific BISD facilities by the City of Brownsville recreational and athletic activities.
Mayor, Commissioners, it's a pleasure being up here to be able to push this to you. First of all, we've been waiting for this for a long time. City staff has been working very hard with BISD's athletics department and others. We've worked with our city attorney's office, come up with a very good memorandum of understanding, but I would like to, we've provided the MOU in here, so if you have any specific questions, go ahead and throw them my way. But my main points are that we're trying to enhance our existing recreational athletic programs. By sharing facilities with BISD, we're providing these type of programs that are at our only 3 gymnasiums, which is Oliveda, Gonzalez, and the Rec Center. Basically, we're going to the kids. Kids come to us, and now it's our turn to go to them. So some of the schools that you see listed on there are middle schools, mainly because varsity sports take up a lot of the high schools. There's 6 high schools. Most of them have 3 gyms now, and they're packed. But a lot of the middle schools and areas of underserved youth, instead of having games at Oliveda where teams from Southmost have to drive all the way over to Oliveda, we'd like to enhance our programs by adding more gymnasiums. The other part is we're working together very hard, the school district and our City of Brownsville, and it's starting to pan out really well for us. So I present this to you tonight, hoping we can get approved and get these things going. I would like to share this, that we are trading the facilities with the sports park for only specific uses. The football and soccer, you can see it specified in the MOU, should be on the second page. There's an increased amount of activities now. One of the biggest problems we've had in the past is that a lot of BISD facilities rain out. They do not have artificial turf surfaces. So our soccer field, which is second to none in South Texas, is used quite often to not have to, it prevents from having to reschedule games with other teams across the valley. It's been a big benefit to us because you kind of get that home field advantage.
Chris, my concerns, I know I've been talking to you about this memorandum. We're supposed to have it done before the end of May before the summer. I don't see in here where you put that the facilities for BISD are going to be available to the community for walking, the basketball, the exterior facilities outside. So that way that we can have the community increase their activities available for them outside and within their community, as opposed to having to get in their vehicle and drive across town to get to a park where they can do that. We discussed the models that Laredo had, and I know I've mentioned to you the ones from San Benito, where they have the areas available open after hours, after school hours, they're available for the community in that area. I don't see that in there, so with that.
Basically, this is for athletics programs, the sharing of it. The next step that we will take is to work with all the schools. It's with the athletics department, with the athletic director, and he does not oversee the other facilities. This is the first step to it, and the reason why it was so lengthy this summer, you did have school vacation, there was a lot of wording. We wanted to be on point with this. This is just the first step. If we need to amend this or amend the MOU, we'll take all the proper procedures. But those are some of the key things. These are just specifically for recreation activities for youth programs. I think that's specified in the top. But as far as
I understand that, but I don't see why we should do it piecemeal if we can take care of it in one. I know we've spoken to the superintendent, and he was very positive as far as working with us and putting together this memorandum of understanding. So I would suggest that maybe we reevaluate that and put it in here. It's not that big of a difference, and I think BISD is on board on this. So I would suggest that I would like to see that part of this memorandum instead of having to come back and do another one.
I see your point. I think our biggest thing is this equal sharing of the gymnasiums and the sports park. We can look into that. There's a lot of public recreation, which is what you're talking about, using the schools after hours, playgrounds. I think the scope of this particular one is just for the sports and athletics, but I will go ahead and we'll get together with staff on that, see if we can enhance this.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye. Let's go get it started, Chris. I know you guys have worked hard on this one, but I think she's got a great point.
Yeah,
and
maybe we could advance on
I think
that.
you need to
I would
build on that.
definitely
But I know when I
support
talked to the BISD, one of the questions they have was the liability issues, and insurance and stuff like that. So we need to have a first step, in my opinion. And Mark, see how you can work that out with those guys and come back to us, okay?
I think, yeah, the sooner the better.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Item number 18.
Item 18, consideration and action to approve the renewal of a memorandum of understanding between the Brownsville Police Department and Los Fresnos CISD Police Department to establish an understanding and cooperation between the Brownsville Police Department and the school district police.
Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners, I'm here on behalf of Chief Orlando Rodriguez, who's not available this evening, to respectfully request your approval in renewing the memorandum of understanding that we have with Los Fresnos School District and the Brownsville Police Department. Currently, we have two Los Fresnos schools within the city limits. We have Olmito Elementary and Rancho Verde Elementary. We share resources as needed, training, etc. It's been established since 2006, this memorandum, and we respectfully request its approval, continued approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Item 19, consideration and action to award a contract for street paving and drainage for Bon Air Street.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. This item is to award a contract for street improvements for Bon Air Lane to R&R Paving Company. The contract amount is $395,109.20. I recommend approval of this item.
Motion to, second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 20, consideration and action to award a term contract for the administration of paramedic classes for the Brownsville Fire and EMS Department.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, based on successful negotiations with the highest ranked vendor, staff recommends the award of a term contract for paramedic courses for the Brownsville Fire Department to Texas Southmost College at the stipulated prices. The term of the contract shall commence upon approval by the City Commission and shall expire on December 31st, 2017. Funding for this service will be provided from the General Fund, account 015367770. The administration of the Brownsville Fire Department concurs with this recommendation.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 21, consideration and action to award a term contract for palm tree trimming and pruning services.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Commissioners. Tonight we're requesting your approval to award a term contract for palm tree trimming services for the City of Brownsville to Nice Cuts Landscapes of Brownsville, Texas, for the amount of $31 per palm tree. This contract will be utilized by all city departments on city right-of-ways, city properties, and city parks. The funding for these services will be provided from each department's operating budget. City staff recommends we approve.
Motion to approve?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Santana.
Item 22, consideration and action to award a term contract for residential curb recycling services.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, we request that you withdraw the item.
Would you withdraw?
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'll abstain on that one too. Abstain.
Would you adjourn? Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.